The doomsday plane circles Virginia. Missile alerts scream across Tel Aviv. Iran's nuclear clock hits tonight, and when reporters ask President Trump about the supreme leader's defiant refusal to surrender, he delivers two words that will echo throughout history, sort of like, the British are coming. He says, good luck. That's not diplomacy. That's not negotiation. It's not another worthless deal written in disappearing ink from an auto pen. It's just cold, calculated certainty from a man who means what he says. Now, while Biden sent pallets of cash, Trump sends a different message. Your time has come to an end. The nuclear facilities Iran thought that were untouchable? No. The regime that survived 40 years of sanctions? No. The leaders who mock American power? They're about to learn why Trump doesn't make threats. He makes promises, and he keeps them. Just keep watching. Now, let's be honest. Most guys think that their testosterone is being drained by aging, bad genetics, or maybe even a lack of exercise. But what if I told you that that's not the real reason? In fact, the real culprit is something that you're likely eating every single day. Now, here's the shocking part. It's something you've always been told is healthy. This one food has been scientifically shown to destroy testosterone levels, and most men have no idea. It's not junk food. It's not sugar. It's something a little bit more unexpected. And just eating it a few times a week is enough to tank your testosterone, kill your motivation, and leave you drained. But here's the good news. Cutting that one food could change everything. The team at Sculpt Nation created Test Boost Max, a formula with 8 powerful natural ingredients that help support and restore healthy testosterone production without injections, prescriptions, or synthetic hormones. They've helped thousands of guys build muscle, burn fat, reignite their energy, and get their drive back the natural way. And right now, you can watch their free video that explains everything. What this food is, why it's hurting you, and what you can do today to take back control of your body. Just go to sculptnation.com/NNN. That's sculptnation.com/NNN. Watch the video, get the facts, make the change. Test Boost Max is for men who still believe in strength, discipline, and taking charge of their health. No prescriptions, no BS, just real results. So Iran just learned what serious consequences actually means. After launching ballistic missiles at Israel, after decades of death to America chanting death to America, after racing towards nuclear weapons, they finally met our President Donald Trump. Trump doesn't negotiate with terrorists. He obliterates them. Breaking news erupted as Fox's Brett Baer reported the latest Iranian missile barrage and Trump's unprecedented response. Iran must unconditionally surrender or face direct U.S. military bodacity. Let's take a look.
Breaking tonight, Iran has just fired a new wave of missiles at Israel just in the past few minutes. This comes shortly after President Trump met with his national security team at the White House about the ongoing fighting. He is calling for Iran to, quote, unconditionally surrender. He's also warning the Islamic Republic's leader that his life could be in danger. There are indications the U.S. could take direct action in the conflict if the president so decides. We begin, though, with Trey Yanks, live in Tel Aviv, where those explosions have just been heard. Good evening, Trey.
Yeah, Brett, good evening. Just a few moments ago, central Israel took in about 15 Iranian ballistic missiles, the majority of them intercepted overhead. Tonight, the Israeli Security Cabinet is meeting to determine the next steps in the war against Iran. The IDF today launching dozens of new airstrikes across Iranian territory, going after these missile launching positions. We know around 40% of those launchers, according to the military, have been taken out so far. Earlier today, I spoke with Major B, an Israeli fighter pilot who is on the front lines of this war. Take a listen. Can you talk about those dangers? Were there any efforts to shoot down Israeli jets? What does Iranian air defense look like?
So when you ask about attempts, I will say that it's pretty obvious that the Iranian regime doesn't like the Israeli fighter jets flying over their skies.
15 ballistic missiles intercepted over Tel Aviv. Israel pilots dodging Iranian air defenses. This isn't saber rattling anymore. This means war. You know, they had 60 days to come to an agreement, and on day 61, Trump began to make right on his promise. You know, his message is crystal clear: surrender, or your sand will turn into glass. The nuclear crisis reached critical mass. Iran stands weeks from weapons capabilities, and unlike Obama's appeasement and his pallets of cash, Trump is drawing red lines that he actually intends on maintaining. Senator Tim Sheehy explains why action cannot wait. Let's take a look.
What do you think he should do? Do you support strikes on Iran?
Well, it's not my world. It's our world. The truth is there are deep divides across the spectrum on both sides about what we do here. Let's speak very clear. The Democrats have been deeply divided over whether Israel has a right to exist as well. There have been Democrats calling for...
The Republicans are in power. So what are...
No, I'd argue, that they have almost half the Senate and half the House. So the Democrats have a lot of power right now. They have the power to do a lot of things. But back to the point is what do we do right now? And the truth is, Iran has been a pernicious adversary, a brutal, savage adversary of America and Israel and the Western world for 45 years. I mean, prior to 1980, Iran was a symbol of what the Middle East could be in this new era of oil wealth that was cascading across the region. Freedom, opportunity, innovation. When this regime, this brutal, murderous regime took over in 1980, which started, by the way, with taking hundreds of Americans hostage at our embassy, we've seen nothing but murder, attack, terrible, terrible oppression from this regime for 45 years. And nowhere is that more apparent than right now in Israel as they launch their entire fleet of ballistic missiles to wipe a nation off the map.
But why strike now? Well, first, do you support
first of all, I didn't say we should strike.
Do you support strikes?
I support what Israel is doing 100%.
Listen to her trying to goad him. That's another narcissistic abuse tactic, is just trying to goad someone into saying something that they don't mean. The Communist News Network never ceases to disgust me. Iran has been a pernicious adversary for 45 years, right? Not a negotiating partner. They're not a regional power. They're an adversary that must be stopped, period. No more games. Speaker Johnson reinforces Trump's crystal clear position. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, because you know what they would do if they got one? They would fire them at America and at Israel. Remember, I said yesterday, the Ayatollahs, they are coming for Saturday, and then they're coming for Sunday. They're coming for your Shabbat services, and then they're coming for your Sunday services. Israel, and then America. The little Satan, the great Satan. Check out this clip.
Iran was very close to nuclear capability, and President Trump has been crystal clear throughout his career in politics by saying that Iran can never have nuclear weapons. They would use it against Israel immediately, and they would use it against the U.S. if they could. So it had to be stopped, and I think most of the people in the world who think in common sense terms applaud that. The president wants peace in the region. He does not want to be a wartime president, but we have to protect our country, our citizens, and that's what this is about.
I respect that man very much, Speaker Johnson. He's got a very, very tough job, and I believe he's doing it with dignity and grace. You know, listen, he had to be stopped, not negotiated with, not contained, stopped. And that's the difference between Trump's clarity and Biden's just, but I hate to speak ill about the dead. You know, Trump is going to prevent a nuclear holocaust, and if we had Democrats in power, they would be the ones ushering in a nuclear holocaust. The American people understand the stakes. CNN's own polling shows the overwhelming bipartisan support for Trump's hardline stance. 79% of all Americans oppose Iran getting nukes. Take a look.
And overall, I feel like there's more support for Donald Trump's positions than is comically acknowledged. Oppose Iran getting a nuclear weapon. I mean, look at this. 79% of adults agree on that. They agree with Donald Trump. Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. 83% of Republicans, 79% of independents, 79% of Democrats. When you get 79% of Democrats and 83% of Republicans agreeing on anything, you know that that position is the very clear majority in this country. And so the American public is with Donald Trump. They definitely oppose Iran getting nuclear.
This is an overwhelming majority. This is beyond any sort of margin of error. Okay, when 79% of Democrats agree with Donald Trump on anything, you know the position is unassailable, especially considering what they put him through over the last decade. You know, even liberals understand nuclear weapons in terrorist hands means the end of civilization. We've seen so many TV shows about this. Like, how can we not get this through our thick heads? The military preparations tell the real story. The presidential doomsday plane scrambled from Louisiana, circling over Virginia as strike options are finalized. Let's take a look at this. This is some incredible.
You might only have 5 minutes left to live. Let me explain. This is the Boeing Doomsday, a plane in the U.S. Air Force dedicated to safeguarding key figures, like the president, during a nuclear crisis. Engineered for rapid response, one of its engines operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ready for immediate takeoff in the event of a nuclear threat. This aircraft has advanced thermal and nuclear shielding, which keeps it protected against the impact of a nuclear blast. Once airborne, the Boeing Doomsday can fly nonstop for an entire week, thanks to its aerial refueling capabilities. Loaded with countermeasures like chaff and flares, it's designed to stop missile attacks, making it hard to destroy in the skies. Only elite and highly experienced fighter pilots are allowed to operate this aircraft. But that's not all. On top of its defensive capabilities, the Boeing Doomsday is a mobile command center. It has advanced radar and surveillance technology, enabling real-time monitoring of potential threats. Inside, you'll find some of the highest levels of tech in the world.
This is something that you only see in like Mission Impossible movies. This is the height of American ingenuity and technology. Let's take a look at the flight path. Okay, so we're going from Dallas down to Houston, across the Gulf of America, across Florida. Personally, I'm not even sure this is the right flight path. Personally, I don't really want to know the actual flight path. What I want is for our I don't want to know everything. This is why we elected them, to protect us from ourselves in some way. You know, this isn't routine. You know, this is massive. This is an incredible development here. You're only getting this here on N3. You know, this is when you launch that airplane into the sky. This is preparation for something massive. The E-4B only flies when Nuclear Command Authority needs airborne protection. Translation: Trump is not bluffing. This thing is in the air right now. When reporters pressed Trump about Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah, refusing to surrender, his response sent chills through Tehran and I would say hope through the free world. We're not going down with it. We're not going down like this. Take a look.
President, what do you say to the supreme leader of Iran says that they will not surrender?
Say good luck.
And what is the end game?
Say it?
I know the locations run out.
It's already run out. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
You can take out.
Yeah, they had 60 days and a big, 60 days, plenty of time. And they made a mistake. Honestly, they made a mistake. Their country's in ruins. So many people are dead that shouldn't be dead.
I love how coy he is. Good luck. They made a mistake. We all know what that means. That means that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog. Like a dog. That means something's happening, okay? When the most powerful man on earth wishes you luck in defying him, you better make sure you have like a casket ready to slip into when your body becomes, complete mush. Okay. And the supreme leader knows what's coming. And at this point, he's the only one sitting at that table, thanks to Israel. Trump expanded on the stakes, explaining why 40 years of Iranian threats end right now. Nuclear weapons in terrorists' hands threaten not just targets, but the sanctity of our entire civilization, the first world itself, the Western world itself. Take a look.
No, they had bad intentions. For 40 years, they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. War is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen. A lot of turns are made. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that we won anything yet. I would say that we sure as hell made a lot of progress. And we'll see. The next week is going to be very big. Maybe less than a week. Maybe less. But is there anybody here that said it would be okay to have a hostile, very, zealots really, but to have a hostile country have a nuclear weapon that could destroy 25 miles, but much more than that, could destroy other nations just by the breeze blowing the dust. That dust blows to other nations and they get decimated. This is just not a threat you can have. And we've been threatened by Iran for many years. If you go back and look at my history, if you go back 15 years, I was saying we cannot let Iran get a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time, and I mean it more now than I ever meant.
I just can't get over how coy he is sometimes. Maybe a week, maybe less than a week. Death to America for 40 years. Listen, like I said last night, when you are being attacked by a circus of deranged clowns, you go for the jugular. Okay? Trump remembers. He doesn't forgive. He doesn't forget. And unlike his predecessors, Trump doesn't pretend that diplomacy works with satanic demons who are literally trying to obliterate countries off the face of the map. He wants peace. He wants people to live. The art of strategic ambiguity, like I said, he's very coy sometimes. I like it. But it reaches new heights as Trump toys with reporters, demanding specifics about strike plans. What's he going to do? He's going to give them specific military plans. Take a look at this clip.
About whether you are moving closer or you believe the U.S. is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities. Where's your mindset on that?
I can't say that, right? You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question? Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't think so. And I was telling them, you gotta do something. You gotta negotiate. And at the end, last minute, they said, no, we're not going to do that. And they got hit. Remember 60 days? And then came the 60. 61 is going to become a very famous number. That was one hell of a hit. That first hit, that was one hell of a hit. Not sustainable, to be honest. That's where it ended. It ended on the first night. Yes.
Is it too late, though? Do you think it's too late to now?
Really, nothing's too late. The only thing too late is Powell. Powell's too late. Too late, Powell.
Have the Iranians?
God bless Donald Trump. Would you please inform us so that we can watch? You know, like his coyness, his sarcasm, it's cutting deep. I mean, listen, this is not a good thing. This is not a good thing. People are going to die. And just like in Gaza, we have to understand who the real culprits are, you know? Like it's the people who are the ones threatening death to America, you know? Real leaders aren't going to like telegraph their military moves so that the enemy can get prepared so that they can stop us from executing our mission. You know, Iran is watching Trump's every word. He's not going to tell them what his game plan is. 60 days. That's what Trump gave them. 60 days. On day 61, it was too late. What were they going to do? They're going to test his patience? They chose poorly. Anyone ever seen Indiana Jones? And now comes the reckoning. They chose poorly. This is not another strongly worded letter. This is not another UN resolution, not another worthless summit, no more grandstanding. There's nothing happening here. This is action, okay? And the contrast with Biden couldn't be any starker, okay? Because now we have a military that that our enemies are pooping in their pants because they don't want to contend with it, which is kind of funny, you know. Look, the Ayatollahs think that Allah Akbar, they think that God is on their side. No, God is not on their side. And they're going to find that out pretty swiftly. You know, Biden negotiated from weakness. Trump dictates from strength, not like a dictatorship. You know, Biden enabled nuclear ambitions. Trump is ending them. At the end of the day, no matter what happens, Trump is going to save more lives than it will ultimately cost. And this is what deterrence looks like. It looks like a guy with a sack, okay? Not empty threats, but credible promises. Not diplomatic dancing, but decisive action. And Iran spent 40 years. Oh, I'm so surprised it took us this long to get to where we are. You know, when someone declares that they want to literally wipe you off the map, believe them. Just like these weird protesters standing in front of the cars. You don't know if they're going to drag you out of the car or not. You don't know if is that a bet you want? Do you want to make that bet? Iran bet wrong. They spent decades building nuclear facilities. They have the largest they have the largest supply of oil, like one of the largest supplies of oil in the entire world. They don't need oil for another 300 years. They don't need energy for another 300 years. Even with nuclear energy, they don't need it. They have all the oil that they need. They want to destroy the small Satan, the little Satan, and then the big Satan. They want to come in for Israel, and then they're coming for America. And it's not going to take 40 years for us to win this war. Okay? They've been bloviating for 40 years. It's not going to take us that long to win this war. You know, Israel pilots report 40% of Iranian missile launchers already eliminated. That's just the appetizer, okay? The main course, we're going in with bunker busters that are so powerful that mountains cannot protect what is underneath. Years of construction vaporized, turned to glass in minutes. You know, Israel is really good at the preemptive strike. You know, they had the 6-day war. They really should have called it the 2-hour war, because they basically obliterated their enemy on 4 different sides, and the other 5 days were just spent cleaning up the mess, like clean up on aisle 4, thanks. You know, the nuclear facilities Iran thought were untouchable, Trump will be touching them. The regime that survived every sanction, Trump is going to end them. And the leaders who mock American power, they're not going to be mocking American power for much longer. But here's what Iran never understood. Trump doesn't play by the establishment's rules. He doesn't care about international consensus or diplomatic norms. He cares about the results, and this is how he's managed to stay in business for so long. The result is going to be simple. Iran without nuclear weapons or Iran without Iranians. That's their choice. Now, every rogue regime is watching at this moment. North Korea, China, Russia. You can always drop some rubles in our tip jar if you guys want to. They're all studying Trump's response here because this is where the rubber meets the road. Because if he'll eliminate Iran's nuclear program, if he'll target their leadership directly, if he'll use American power without apology, then nowhere is safe for any tyrant anywhere on earth. 40 years of death to America ends with American power delivering death to the people saying death to America. That's just the way it has to be. It's either us or them, apparently. Remember, when they're coming at you saying that they're going to kill you, believe them. 40 years of weakness is being restored. And that is Trump's foreign policy. I don't believe he wants to kill anyone. But when push comes to shove, we win, they lose. Now, if you got any value from this report, please tap subscribe. My final thought is next. Now, this moment defines America's future. Either we stop Iran's nuclear ambition now, or we watch mushroom clouds rise over Tel Aviv and eventually American cities. There is no middle ground with nuclear terrorism. Trump understands that what Biden never could. You can't negotiate with a nation that chants death to America for 4 decades. You know what you do? You end them. While Obama sent billions of dollars, pallets of cash, and Biden begged for deals. I mean, if he was, but I hate to make fun of the dead. Trump sends bunker busters and keeps his promises. The doomsday plane circling overhead isn't theater. This is readiness. Let me tell you something. They don't just bust out that plane for no reason. When Trump says good luck, that's not diplomacy. That's a death sentence. And every American needs to grasp this truth. Preventing nuclear terrorism is not warmongering, it's survival for our people. When terrorists get nukes, civilization ends. We've seen this show on TV so many times. It's ridiculous that we're even commenting about it right now. Trump is drawing the line that previous presidents were too weak to enforce. History will record this as the moment where American strength returned. Now, I want to ask you a question. Should America strike Iran's nuclear facilities before it's too late? Yes or no? Drop your answer below and show that you stand with strength by visiting our merch shop, linked in the description below, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.